Welcome everyone. I'm Artie Merritt. I lead the Conversational AI partnership initiatives at AWS. I appreciate everyone joining. We have a great panel discussion to talk about conversational AI in the travel and hospitality industry. And our panelists include Alan, the CTO of Cation, the makers of Parly, Andrei, the CEO of NLX, Laetitia, the managing director for AI and data at Accenture and the global lead for conversational AI, and Max, who's the global lead for BD for the passenger airline industry. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll get to those towards the end of the session. But I just want to kick off with quick intros. So perhaps we start with you, Alan.
Hey, okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Alan Kiernan. I'm the CTO of Cation Consulting. We created Parly. Parly is our multilingual, multi-channel, multi-domain conversational live chat solution. And so we service to better assist our customers with delivering that conversational AI journey.
And Andrei?
Cool. Thanks, Artie. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrei Papancea. I'm the CEO and co-founder of NLX. We specialize in transforming customer contact into personalized self-service across any and all channels. We have a platform that enables our customers to build chat, voice, and multimodal conversational AI applications.
Laetitia?
Thanks, Artie, for the invitation. So I'm Laetitia. I lead Conversational AI globally in Accenture. We also have a pretty awesome platform that we've put in place, over the past 5-6 years as we implemented a conversational AI solution with our client. It works super well with AWS technology, and we have a number of clients using it at scale at the moment. So delighted to be there and represent this effort.
And Max?
Hi, everybody. I'm Massimo Morin. I'm the Global Head of Business Development for Travel and Passengers Airline here at AWS. I'm part of the travel and hospitality practice that now has more than 400 years of combined experience in the industry, dedicated to provide the know-how and technology to accelerate travel and hospitality companies to execute on their digital transformation strategy.
Great. I appreciate everyone being part of this. I'm excited about this panel, especially as folks start to get back to traveling, as things are starting to open up more. So I just want to kick off. The first question here is, why are travel and hospitality enterprises building conversational AI solutions, chatbots, or voice assistants? And perhaps you can start with Alan.
Sure. So in our experience in travel specifically, it's that case of helping a customer get to their business destination in terms of what they're trying to achieve. I find the trip, book the trip, go on the trip and get home from the trip, with that low level of friction, where they're not dealing through 20 pages of a website. So they have like a sidecar is the wrong term. It's more like a virtual assistant to help them cut through reading 10 pages and actually deliver upon what that journey needs to look like, whether it be in like a help with something or do something or attend something. It's really to put that conversation down across multiple channels, multiple languages, multiple form factors. Just really make it simple and convenient.
How about Andrei? What are y'all seeing folks doing?
Well, the state of the world's changed since the pandemic, and I think it's pretty much just brought the industry to a standstill for quite some time. And even now, virtually all of the airlines we speak with and all the customers we speak with are having a difficult time scaling their operations. And conversational AI is just a very practical solution to that. Now, there's a balance to be had, right? 100% automation is not feasible, at least not without annoying customers, right? So it's a way to augment your operations, especially as you deal with unexpected events and any type of like disruptions. And I guess another reason is the fact that the conversational AI technology today has reached a state of maturity that enables a lot more than maybe what was possible, 5 to 10 years ago. And especially with technologies like Amazon Connect, now the time to market of, let's say, a new call center, we see this quite often with our customers. Like, it takes sometimes like a week to put something together end to end and roll it out, right? So it's no longer like a multi-year investment, and all multi-year investment until you even start to see if it maybe works or not, right? You just make it or break it quick, iterate quick, and I think the industry has finally realized the practicality of the technology.
Definitely. How about Laetitia? What is?
I mean, I agree very much with what Andrei and Alan have been mentioning before. Obviously the technology has come of age. I think the point and ultimately scaling your operation is super important at very low cost, because those industry have lost a lot of money, need to make the margin in a different way. There's not as much volume of people going through, so it's really important that the cost of operation is actually at the minimum. I think the thing I would add is before those call centers and industry used to be very human consuming. And also with the pandemic, with people being sick, with some of the reliance on the human element has been a key problem. Meaning we've all been trying to figure out solution to our problems and not being able to kind of have a call return in no time. So ultimately, those kind of tech, not only they scale, but they reduce the reliance on the human element, which is super important. One of the other elements, going back to unexpected situation. So obviously we all coming out, I don't know, we maybe going back in. The world is very unpredictable. And I think airlines have been very unlucky. Obviously the pandemic, which we thought we were all out of, but everybody's starting to talk about new waves. But also climate change. I recall, helping an airline company because there was a lot of ashes coming out of a volcano in Europe, and that was flooding their call center, and people really needed to kind of still make their way home or make their way to their family, and those unexpected. And obviously now we have a war in Europe, again some country shutting down and all of that, and a lot of operation to stand up really fast. And obviously having virtual assistants, you can put those solutions super fast in place and they can scale. And if something happened to an airport, or if there's a volcano popping up, you can go and change exactly what you want the bot to say. So not only it scales, but it's actually the adaptability of the technology is actually second to none in comparison to what we have. So I really think, this is the way forward for company, especially now that is very affordable in comparison to what it used to be. Yeah.
Definitely. How about Max? What are you saying?
Look, customer care and customer support is at the core of travel hospitality company. At the end of the day, it's travel and hospitality, being hospitable. How do you take care of your business and take care of your customers? So the conversational AI chatbot, generally known, but also the contact center, the way that you communicate is actually at the core of what their business is. Because when people are connecting with them, it's not to congratulate on the great service that they are providing, but usually is either to explore option for purchasing product, or actually when there is a problem. And then when there is a problem, they want to be able to get answer fast on the information that they have. And at the same time, the contact center is actually expensive. So having operators that answer the phone or provide this information. So they have been looking at mechanism to scale system of self-serve that can offload high volume, low value transaction to automated system so that the customer can actually be better served by himself, and then prioritizing the need of those customers that instead require additional attention. For that reason, there has been an acceleration of this technology and the adoption, especially with airline, given also that margins are thin. They were trimming down their workforce, so offloading this as much as possible as being key.
Yeah, this is all great feedback. I remember seeing when I had the analytics startup, some of the airlines were reaching out to us because of some of the things you mentioned, where the shelter in place rules, the folks weren't even in the call center, so you needed additional people, or you needed something like an AI to help with that. So it's interesting, you talked some about the speed, scale, adaptability, handling some of these high volume, low complexity tasks. And the thing that I really enjoyed how you mentioned that they're in the hospitality industry. So these are really to help provide, better user experience. I'm curious about some of the actual use cases. What are airlines doing? Like what are some of those use cases they're trying to handle? And maybe start with Andrei.
Yeah, happy to. Well, it starts off with, and this is actually a pretty straightforward answer for people if they just put themselves into the shoes of the traveler. So like doing that, when I call one of these companies, right, you better know who I am, why I'm calling about, especially if I have an upcoming flight, right? And just be able to, at the very least, pull up context. If there is some, right? If I haven't traveled with you in 3 months, that's okay. Be like, hey, Andrei, how's it going? Like, what can we do? But I think that first of all, that element of personalization is important, not just because, hey, it makes you feel good, or like, oh, I want to hear my name said at the other end of the call, but it puts me at comfort when it comes to interacting with the virtual assistant in this case, because there's a stigma, right, around it. When that element isn't there, it's like, oh, they don't understand what I'm saying, or it won't be able to help me. But that, first of all, sets the tone of the conversation, that you know who I am and you know why I might be calling. And then it's a matter of essentially not trying to fool the user. If you know you can handle XYZ well, do it. Otherwise, take them to an agent. Because there's a lot of attempts, and I've seen this with many companies in the industry and beyond. They pride themselves with containment, but at the cost of customer satisfaction, the quality of the experience. That's not an answer, because to Max's point, the hospitality component is lost at that point. It's like, and I think it boils down to things as simple as, if they say, I want to speak to an agent, man, just take them to an agent. Don't bother like locking them in or anything like that. And it's counterintuitive because, a lot of the times when these technologies get put into play, the expectations that, hey, let's save money, let's contain people and all that stuff, but it's done at the expense of the customer. And what we've seen in practice with our customers, we generally set the bar at, hey, let's start backwards from the best experience. Don't worry about if it's doable or not. Let's just imagine, like, what would be the perfect experience for this? You walk backwards from that, and whenever it starts to get distorted or you're making concessions on the experience, that's when you take them to a human. So I guess to kind of, and I'll end on this point, there's also oftentimes when it comes to conversation, hey, there's this perception that you're doing away with people, and it's not. You're actually routing things to people that only humans can do. Computers, honestly, are pretty stupid, right? They just execute the instructions you give them, and that's about it. I don't want to be facetious, but that's essentially the crux of it. But there's things that only humans can do, and then there's no point to attempt them if you know you cannot solve them, and that ends up creating the experience that customers want.
You could optimize for 100% containment by never escalating people.
Precisely.
And then upset everyone. Laetitia, are you seeing any like specific like use cases that are better suited for airlines? Sorry, for chatbots.
Yeah, I have to say I agree so much with what Andrei is saying. This is not an automation play. I think, what call center have been scripted to death and actually pushed into a low-cost location because people could follow scripts. So ultimately, the service you get is a scripted service with some people that are, sometime, in low-cost play, which are actually trying to repeat the script. So typically, that can be quite easily automated. The important with a chatbot in travel, but anywhere, is to really spin the experience on its head. And not automate the existing. And I think where I've seen a lot of companies fail is if they take the current booking process or their current, I don't know, some of their current thing and decide to kind of have a bunch of techie kind of do the automation. That doesn't work because people would just come, get frustrated, because ultimately the script that we wrote like 15 years ago, they're very system focused. They worry about the internal guts of the company and what system needs to do what, rather than worry about the person. Going back to the point of Massimo on hospitality, you want to be human-centered. Now in the 21st century, we're human-centered, and we need to think like the service we provide is for human. Obviously, anything transactional is automating much better in terms of containment. So like booking a flight or asking for flight details and things like that, especially if the bot remembers what are your habits, if you have a frequent traveler, ultimately all of that should actually be just a yes no kind of answer type of thing, super fast. Ultimately natural language is fancy, but the less you ask the customer, the better, because that means you know them well. So there's also that thing where the techies sometimes are getting very excited about natural language, being super expert. Well, actually, if you do your design well, you know your customer, you anticipate what they want, you can propose to them stuff, and actually it's very slick. And the complexity of natural language processing you need to do is actually fairly basic, because you just done a really cool experience. So we shouldn't mix, all those bits. So on transactional stuff, we can do 80, easily 80% of transaction automation or containment. What's getting a little bit harder, or what's worth automating as well, is I know we did for an airline in Europe, some AI, more than conversational AI, on complex baggage handling. So what's happened in the airline industry is a lot of companies are buying each other, or they're code sharing, or they, especially now with COVID, they started to be quite creative about how they reduce their cost of operation. And there's a lot of contracts, and actually legal people, when they set up their contract, they're not necessarily thinking about how you operate those contracts afterwards, because if you have one airline on one code share, and you can take that type of suitcase, but the other part of the code share you can't, and then kids have different rules, it gets very complicated. And I think starting to automate and digitalize some of those things actually can make it quite easy. We were doing some work with this airline. Actually, the hard part was not the automation element of it, was actually finding the right answer, because on the website it was saying something, one website was saying something different, the intranet saying something different, people at the call center had different books, and then the contracts were kind of laying down different rules. So I think there is a lot of complexity, and that's out there, just incrementally been building up, and ultimately automating those use cases just helps you finding what's the truth and what should be the answer.
Definitely. How about Max? Any specific use cases that you see that airlines trying to focus on?
Absolutely. So I would like to drive the attention the fact that there are actually two customers when you are talking about contact center and conversational AI. So obviously the first one is the traveler and the guest. And you want to offload that all these transactions that are high volume, low value transaction, enable self-serve and so forth. But there is also the contact center agent. I mean, you don't want to stress the agent with the same question all over the time. And at the same time, you want to have a mechanism that when the conversation through the chatbot actually ends and it is transferred to an agent, then the agent see what was the context. So there are this. So the type of use cases, they can be very simple as informational. For example, can I fly to somewhere? Do I need a COVID test? Do I need to be vaccinated? How long are we going to stay? So there are all these kind of very simple examples that can make available, and I've been working with Andrei on this, making it available on the airline website, right? And then you put it there, and then you ask right away to a small subset. But things that are a bit more sophisticated, can be done. I have seen, for example, a situation in which a restaurant, you are trying to place an order, then the system recognizes you already placed an order before, is proposing the same item. So it says, do you want to redo this order? That accelerate this type of interaction. Or things like with Alan, Ryanair, that is, a customer want to know, what is my bag allowance? How much does it cost? Can I bring my second bag? Those are all those type of information that conversational AI can easily put in place and automate and prioritize the customer that are real need for the agent to solve them, instead of having them be on queue and waiting to talk to an agent with very simple question like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it goes back to some of the things you talked about, keeping track of the context, personalization, effective routing or more efficient routing to agents. That makes sense. Alan, how about yourself? Any interesting use cases you see?
So definitely. So like, I have to, one, agree with everything said so far. So the customer, the problem being last in these questions is because you get the tail end, right? But but putting the customer first is absolutely critical, whether that's as a versus on the side with conversational AI, or whether that's actually having the conversational AI as part of their inherent journey as they try and resolve whatever the problem is. The problem may be make the booking or get support. But just the biggest use case for us that I've seen has been reaction to change, and how quickly we can make a conversation react to change compared to traditional mechanisms. So, and COVID was, a really, really rapid example of this. Like, dealing with someone like Ryanair, who are smart, intelligent, exceptionally aggressive in terms of getting stuff done, which is fabulous. Things like refunds for flight queries. Once flights got shut down in Europe, that became a whole, like, talk about the pressure on the call centers. You got to do that in an automated manner and make that changeable super fast and make it scalable super fast. So we're on Amazon 100%. On-hand scalability is never a challenge. But in terms of some complexity, as Max mentioned, travel restrictions, right? So Europe is open for travel. Europe has always been open for travel. But in the sort of pre-vaccination or shot one vaccination era, travel restrictions in different countries in Europe were very, very different. The rules were different. The data was different, and it changed like literally every day. So being able to put a chat solution in place which was able to surface that data from reputable sources, compress it, make it available to customers, and keep it changing automatically. That's a really good example of where conversational AI steps in and makes the UX simple and direct, but deals with something complex behind the scenes. And that's been an exceptional use case in terms of demonstrating capability for conversational AI for us. And also do it in multi-languages because it's Europe, right? So we're able to automate as much as possible. It's a really strong use case for using CAI.
Yeah, I was almost the victim of that. We were in Madrid where they changed, even though we're vaccinated, to get back to the US, you had to take a test, which we found out the night before the flight. And that was quite a...
that happened during reInvent as well for us, right? We're going to Las Vegas trying to find a test center to get back home.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. The only upside of it is we got the upgrade because I think a lot of other people weren't able to get the test in time, so it worked out in a weird way. But that actually it reminds me of something too. We talk about some of the use cases and perhaps even making use of additional AI, like. For some of the airlines, you have to upload your the vaccination card. So are you all seeing additional AI beyond the NLU, whether it's voice recognition, document recognition used inside these experiences? And maybe we can start with Laetitia for this one.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously computer vision is the type of AI you can add, for checking the passport, because I think some airline also kind of pushed it to collecting some of those things. I think we see it very much in other industry. I think in terms of document checking, I only seen it on British Airways actually in Europe, but I may not have traveled all the airlines across Europe. It has some advantages and some inconvenience, obviously, because when I was traveling back to the UK, for instance, I was having one of my kids was a bit of an exception because she had COVID and she needed a separate different paper, and the automatic check-in was not working. So then we had to do the long queue of checking the paper. So anyway, so yes, obviously, AI is very effective to could do all of that when documents are standard. So it works quite well on passport or vaccination issued by government. I think when you kind of falling into some of the exception, like a doctor kind of write you a note to say something, it just it starts to go a little bit haywire. But yes, definitely good techniques to improve the check-in process.
Yeah, or how about maybe for this could be any either like the additional AI or one of the other areas I was seeing is like the multimodal experiences too, where like the IVR is sort of guiding someone through that chatbot experience. Are you seeing airlines adopting more of these types of things, more advanced, I guess, experiences? Maybe I can start with Matt. Yeah, go, Matt. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we see the conversational AI to be only one channel that the customer is engaging with the travel and hospitality provider. So it is a part of an omni-channel multimodal platform for customer engagement. Think about it, when you want to get in touch with the airline or the restaurant or the hotel, you go to the chat, then you continue on the phone, or you can actually inquire through Alexa, but at the same time, so you are talking to the contact center, you're talking to the agent, but then you need actually to communicate how the change occurs. So you're doing push notification, you're doing emails, you're doing text messages. And on top of it, that you actually start layering personalization. So the relevancy of the data, the relevancy of the information about the customer, how you tailor it accordingly. And everything is working on a wealth of the data, understanding who is the customer. Specifically, when you're talking multimodal, things that always drive me crazy is that you are on the phone, right? Or you are on a voice system, or even you are texting, right? But you're not using the full potential of the device that you have in your hand. Think about when you are making an order. Some of the gentlemen here and the lady have systems that enable you to send a link to the website. So you're doing a seat upgrade, you see what is the seat that you selected, and the voice is actually guiding through you. And at the same time, you want to pay for your order of pizza, and you do not have on record the credit card number. You can take a picture of your credit card, recognize the number. So make it seamless and easy for the customer to do it, and very quick, because this is the key. Today, our guests and travelers have been acquainted to technology and the way of operating that the Amazon, the Facebook that are out there train them to do. And this is what they are expecting from travel and hospitality company as well. And the first one that jump on this and they're able to execute are the ones that are going to capture the demand that is coming up, because that is how they make their selection, what they are more comfortable with. And we are here at AWS with these three partners of ours to help this travel and hospitality company to execute on this. Because if they don't do it now, I'm not really sure when they are going to do it. I mean, there has been a pandemic. So this is the right moment to execute on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. How about anyone else? Are you seeing more of the multimodal experiences? Like any?
Yeah, along the lines of what Max was talking about. So we have a technology called Voice Compass that allows customers, and essentially their end customers or end users, as you want to put them, to leverage, I guess, to Max's point, the full potential of the devices that they're calling from. And the way we even landed on this was, we quickly realized that there's just use cases that are impractical over certain channels. For instance, one of the rollouts we're doing, we're in the process of doing as we speak, it entails, let's say, capturing last names and booking confirmation numbers or PNRs over voice. My last name is now very common, so it's just virtually impossible for the speech to text technology to pick it up. But even for English sounding names, sometimes just a slight spelling difference or something like that just makes it very impractical to capture that. And for those types of use cases, we generally branch out of the I guess, channel that the conversation was initialized through, let's say the phone, and then go to another channel where in synchronization, we basically take the user all the way to task completion. And should anything go wrong, once again, to what I said earlier, you take them to an agent. What's powerful in this is, to kind of go back to what Laetitia was talking about, essentially, if the customer is already invested in other types of technology and other types of AI technology, like, hey, I'm going to upload, I'm going to have the ability to upload documents and automatically use OCR technology to extract information and automate that screening process. Instead of baking that, obviously, it will be a little, you wouldn't be able to do that over something like voice, but instead of baking that even into the chat experience or something like that, we actually drive users to that other let's say, digital asset and walk them through it. So we kind of use the power of each channel to provide the same, the best possible experience, right? When you're hearing things and seeing things and, I guess touching, right? Because you're tapping on the phone, it's just this synergy of senses that's proven to be more effective in conveying information. And I think that's where multimodal technologies, we've seen them being very practical and a lot more prevalent, especially starting with the pandemic.
I think if I can add slightly to that, so that's that's fantastic. That's exactly where we're at. But from the customer's point of view, you've got pre-travel, day of travel, post-travel, and life of the customer, right? And regardless of what channels you communicate on, you have multi-channels, but you should have one source of data, one source of truth for the customer. And it's in how we pull that data in and make use of it that drives value, and value being making money or saving money. Either side's good. And that's what wins for us. Like in our scenario where say you're dealing with a refund, right? There are still systems in companies where paper is a thing, right? And you literally get PDFs or photographs, whatever. So pulling that data in and being able to join that data with the existing life of the customer data and making use of that in those business scenarios, that drives huge value. And it reduces those scenarios where you have high volumes of very automatable tasks, which have people who could be doing, higher value, adding higher service to the customers.
And if I may add, on a complete different tangent,
Go ahead.
The story around multimodal and multi-generation. So one of the things, so we tend to speak as techies about different channels and all of that, but actually when you start looking under the bonnet, channels are quite generational. So older people, they'll pick up the phone. People my age, probably Facebook. People like my son age would think we're very old and we're completely silly. And you should go via Instagram or some random other things. And, I think ultimately multimodal is not one size fits all. We all have preferences. We all have habits of how we do things. I think the important is, going back some of the points that were made before, is we use the right channel for something suitable, but we also very flexible in terms of what the user can want in terms of interaction mode. So that flexibility needs to be still human-centered, and we're all different, very human. I know we did a call center automation with VoiceBot with Irish Revenue. Actually, I know some of you were from Ireland, for tax clearance. And actually, our first customer was 87-year-old kind of a lady, and she went through the process and she got everything she needed. She didn't need to go to the tax office, and and that's beautiful. She couldn't open a computer to do anything, or she couldn't even she wouldn't be able to kind of chat on the phone because it would just be too complex. But so. I think it's just multimodal. Yes, it's fantastic. We need to make sure we maximize the channel for what they're best for, but also never forget that, we're all very different human and we tend to do different things on everything.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So it's being on the right channel for the particular use case or test, but also being on the channels users prefer to interact. Like if it is, WhatsApp or Instagram, whatever it is, right? But it's touching upon something that I've been finding quite interesting, where folks talk about from the user experience in conversational AI. We're starting to see folks chat about empathy. Like how do you deal with like that aspect, whether it's a sentiment or being empathetic to the person. And a somewhat related topic is the trust factor too. So I'm curious you all's thoughts on that, how to handle empathy. Maybe I could start with Alan this time, or anyone who wants to chime in. So
I'm more happy to start.
Yeah.
I'll start with the statement we use internally, which is be Jarvis, don't be Terminator. And that's seriously, that's so we talk about tone with our customers in terms of how something feels nice and approachable, sympathetic, sometimes a little bit funny, just to get them engaged, or it depends on the context of what you're trying to solve. It's definitely more prevalent in a voice, actual pure voice experience like Alexa or Connect IVR, where even how the device phrases a question will have an impact on how the customer responds, and how the customer responds drives the conversation down the right path or the wrong path if we don't understand what they're saying. So it's more than just providing that super good experience. It's helps provide technical accuracy as well in the conversation. So that's kind of if you put the customer first always, make that a smooth, simple conversation. And also, when we're dealing with something that's empathic, try and do it in a way which the customer's response can be short and clear. Avoid the risk of them having a rambling conversation, which is just super hard to work around at times. But yeah, so empathy, short, clear, concise conversations, and be nice, always to help drive the technical accuracy and the business function.
How about Laetitia? What do you all do anything on the empathy side? Or?
Yeah, I think Andrei and actually they've done an amazing job already. One other thing I really like when Andrei started to answer a question a little bit before is you need to understand your customer when they come in, and that level setting that you understand who they are and what they are for, actually starting to establish that trust, if you want, and some level of empathy. We know you're calling us, the propensity you have a problem is really high, and we know that this is related to this context. So it's empathy is just basic things to make sure there's that handshake in between the human and the machine, and there's a communication going on, rather than the human saying in million things and the bot saying, I'm still learning, can you say it another way? This is not empathy. This is just really frustrating. So I think making sure you have a great design, with good trained NLP, some of those checkpoints, so repeating probably in a slightly different way when the person says, to make sure you can move to the next level. Checkpoints, all of that is actually really important to build the relationship, if you want, as you go on, and that trust element. I think that's key. I think from what Alan was saying, I kind of, for me, it's the power of words. So we need to remember, I think, and that's a big shift in our techie industry, is the power of words. We used to have designers doing websites, and they didn't care so much about the word because they had big pages. And they could write nice paragraphs with a lot of fluffy words. Then we had apps, so we were a little bit, we had less real estate for words. But now when you're in a voice conversation, the words, nobody wants to, you have a problem, I don't want to hear like, hello, this is I'm talking about the weather when I just need to go and solve my problem. So and that skill, I think, as we kind of go into the industry, we don't have many people that are really good at words. those kind of words. What I tell my client is this is a bit more like a Quentin Tarantino type of skills, like how do you do a good, powerful dialogue? And, ultimately people in the film industry that just do good, powerful script kind of have more of that. We in the IT corporate industry, we tend to be a little bit more transactional. And I guess is how do you kind of make those words meet? But the power of word is really key in conversational AI.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to SEO optimize the the conversation and flood it with long text. Andrei, sorry, nodding quite a bit.
I mean, I was gonna put a twist on it, but then I really like how Laetitia put it. So I think the art of words is nails it. It's really it's the most powerful way of showing empathy, because even as humans, right? Because in the end, that's what you're trying to emulate there. Words matter, right? Saying things in the wrong way, or I mean, think about if you're, let's say, filing a dispute for something, and then like someone just prompts you, even as a human, what will they say? It's like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me take care of this for you, right? As opposed to like, okay, well, just here are like 2 paragraphs of policy that I'm going to run through. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to hear any of this. I just want to solve the problem. To your to your points, and yeah, just being, especially depending on the channel, let's say something like voice, being brief and concise, and really just showing that you understand what the topic is about. And if not, again, you defer to a channel or a mechanism that can solve that problem, is the best way to do it. It's a conversational design / copy editing exercise. It's easier said than done. It sounds simple in practice, but it's actually quite an art to Laetitia's point. Yeah.
How about Max? I see.
Yeah, I would like to give a different angle to the empathy. I mean, you can have the perfect word and very empathetic system, but the problem is that what drives anxiety from the customer, what makes them unhappy. What makes me personally unhappy is when I have to identify myself 15 times to different systems, when I have a navigation menu that drives me crazy and they don't remember, there were 15 different options, they don't remember which one is the right option to select, the one that I have to repeat myself over and over. So here, I am calling from my phone. You should know me right away. If I am traveling tomorrow, if I place a booking on an hotel, I'm talking about that specific things. So the technology can help mitigate that and identify when the customer is frustrated or is unsatisfied. But certainly the way you design the access to the system, how to understand, I don't want to use platitudes like personalized or understanding the customer, but really, why are these people contacting me? Why are they typing? How can I give the right message as quickly as possible? Am I leveraging all the information that I have to serve them? Because if I do that, then I can preempt the frustration. And that is where brands are showing their value, right? Think about the Mandarin Oriental. Think about a very high level brand in hospitality and in travel, that the way they differentiate themselves is the customer care. You want to have a system that represents you in caring about the customer. And the thing is, look, money is money, but time is more than money. I value my time more than anything else. So if you can get me going as quickly as possible, I'll appreciate it very much, because I have better things to do than typing things or speaking to a bot on a phone. And that is how we should put ourselves in the shoes of the customers as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So I see there's a few questions coming in from the audience. I have one last question, then we'll bring in the audience questions. So before we wrap up and go to those questions, I just want to ask all of you, where do you see like the future of conversational AI, in particular, maybe the travel and hospitality industry? Where do you see that going? And perhaps we can start with Max this time.
So.
Yeah.
there has been a lot of thought about how travel and hospitality companies are selling their product, right? And initially, you have the travel agent. The people go there and have a very personal engagement. That was in the 80s, the mom and pop store on the corner. Then became the advent of the internet and the website. So everything was literally self-serve. And now you have everything a la carte, especially 2010, with everything is unbundled, so you can get all the upgrade, the seats and whatnot. But I think that now there is a desire to go back to the personal engagement. So the technology is mature enough to actually reestablish again that one-on-one engagement and conversation with the travelers and guests to get what they need. And the initial step is where we are today. I'm looking for information. That is the first things, right? And providing those information. The second thing is I have a reservation. I place an order. I have, where is my pizza and so forth. So you are asking for eventually changing an order or updating an order and so forth. We will reach a certain point that we will build trust enough to the system in which we say, my family of 4 want to go on a weekend in Miami. So tell me what are my best options. And he gives me the 3 best options. They talk me through it, and I can decide with the confidence and comfort that those are the 3 best options that are there for me, because I build a relationship with the system that assure me that he knows me at that point. So this is the journey that I am seeing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely the personalization aspect.
Right.
How about Alan?
I'm going to have to agree with Max completely, as always. But the one thing I'd add is so what it's a combination of what I see and what I'd like to see. Is that concierge continually evolving around my activities. So the typical story of this is we're going on holidays, so we have flights booked, hotels booked, we're good. Before we get there, we're on the plane and go, okay, what do we do when we get there? So for the conversational AI to serve as that concierge between, hey, you're going for 3 days, here's the activities you haven't booked yet, here's these you do, here's what the special offers are, here's what the price points are, figure all that out for me, and literally I just say, do it, and that just removes the stress from the equation, if it's deemed as a stressful equation, and let the AI help guide me on what the trip should be and get the best value for it at the same time.
Great. And how about Andrei, where do you see the future going?
I second both Alan and Max on this for sure. And I think, and I think, Alan, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. It's about that unified traveler experience. And I think we're gonna get to the point where that traveler profile transcends not just channels, but transcends different entities and companies and things like that. Imagine, like, I'm Andrei the traveler, regardless whether I'm renting the car or whether I'm booking a flight or I'm going to a restaurant or booking a hotel, right? Like I have my preferences that I either explicitly provide or implicitly by the actions I take with all those. So I think sort of providing, or I think we're going to get to that layer of abstraction that can transcend those companies, so that when Alan is ready to figure out what activities he should do once he reaches Miami, the system already knows what the general activities he takes on when he goes with the kids or when he just goes with his partner. So I think it's at the very least, even if it doesn't happen, that's what I would strive to see in the market. I think that ultimate personalization experience, because it kind of weaves in everything that we've talked about today, right? It's just know me, and I believe if I'm not wrong, like Accenture actually had some very nice research a few years ago around the fact that it was very essentially strong indication that people are willing to provide their data if you're willing to provide something valuable in return. So we can't say like, hey, we can't provide personalization because people don't want to give that to us, right? Because that's not true. Like, I'll gladly give you access to my traveler profile and all this stuff. If you're able to actually make my experience better. If you're not, I'm just gonna be like, what are you gonna do with my data? Just, you know, it's just gonna be annoying. So yeah, I don't know. That's my view of it, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to make it happen.
And you can infer a lot of data too, right? The way that people interact. So
absolutely.
How about Laetitia, what do you see as the future, or where do you see things going for conversational AI in the travel and hospitality?
I would like to, oops.
Yep, you're there.
Yeah, sorry. I would like to take two angles on it. First, the future of conversational AI more broadly, because I think we are, you know, going into Web 3.0. You know, like it's a new way of engaging with systems. Yeah, we used to engage with website, we used to engage with brand, with apps, and now, you know, you engage with systems and with brands, you know, using conversation, and that's going to become mainstream. We just don't know it yet, but this is going to go as big as, you know, web and app and all of that. This is just going to be a new meme. Then on the travel industry itself, obviously we're starting with conversational AI to, you know, personalize at scale this experience. We could never do that before with human. It was just like, it was just not possible. Human can't remember all that data for, you know, they can't calculate the propensity of you going there or there with, you know, in 5 seconds when they pick up the phone. So we're starting that personalization at scale. There's a lot of digitalization of things that's also possible in the back end to continue making sure those experiences are even better. For instance, in Italy, meaning we're working with the Ministry of Tourism around digitalization of hotel availability, of weather, of attraction, of XYZ. So not only you have it booked, but actually it's raining and it proposes you something else. So you kind of start, I think there's still quite a lot to be done around digitalization of some of the information out there in the world. You know, paper is still very common. You know, every kind of cities have their own kind of way of knowing what's going on. There's big platform like Airbnb, Marriott, hotels, and all of that. And there's a lot of smaller players in the ecosystem that have not gone through that journey yet. And I think as we go through that, then the world is going to be much slicker for travelers as we go on now.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you all doing this. We do have a few audience questions. Maybe we could, there's two that maybe we can combine into one real quick. We talk mostly about airlines, but what are you all seeing for like hotels or other aspects of travel and hospitality? What folks might be doing with conversational AI? Anyone? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
To take this one, hotels are rather interesting because they come in different shapes and sizes, and the prospective automation needs for, let's say, a luxury brand would differ from basically a non-luxury brand, whatever that entails. I'm not going to put stars on them or anything, but essentially you'll have travelers who come in with largely just concierge style requests that might be a little harder to automate depending on how your services are positioned. And others, in other cases, at other hotels, people might just be, we worked a couple times with a few hotels in the Las Vegas area. There are a lot of people calling in to ask when the pool hours, what the pool hours are, or, you know, what time restaurant such and such is open, you know. So like depending on the type of property, then you know, we generally just kind of walk backwards from what guests are more frequently calling about. And that's where, honestly, like conversational analytics are handy. So even before, let's say you start tackling the problem, a good technique is you just, let's say, put the system in place, whether it's call or chat, and then route everything to an agent. But in the meantime, record all the phrases and the things that they're saying, analyze them, and then drive automation through that. So it's a practical way of testing things without really upsetting the customer. And I'll kind of pause there to maybe hand over to some others, but that's my take on hotels in that regard.
Can I add something on channel here? So hotels are a good experience because the channel is critical, right? So the biggest issue that we've seen in dealing with clients is trust and devices. Customers, to our experience, do not want an Alexa in the hotel room, right? That's not their own private space. It's a rented space. So they're much more comfortable actually picking up a phone and hitting an IVR, or using a bot, an app-based bot channel instead. It's one of those pieces we have to get over.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did go to a hotel in Japan that had the Alexa. It was kind of interesting to see it in the thing. We've chatted with a few companies where they're focusing purely on hotels, and they're doing some of the things that were mentioned, like concierge, like send up towels or order food, or like they said, pool hours, checkout times, like just some interesting stuff some of the folks are doing.
If I chime in more on this, the idea here is, besides all the usual case for booking and in-room service and whatnot, what travel hospitality companies are trying to do, and also hotels, is to drive traffic to their own digital asset, to their website, to their mobile app, right? When you start engaging with a chatbot, right, when at the beginning or when you need it, you're building trust in the system. So now you can start pushing notification. And I was talking to the CIO of the Atlantis, for example. They have 20 restaurants in Dubai. They have 20 restaurants inside the system, right? It is 7 p.m. Don't you send a push notification to the system? Are you interested on a recommendation for a restaurant? Or they track you with the mobile app, what location you are, you haven't explored this area, and now you're using the mobile system as a mechanism to start re-engaging the customer. And the conversational AI is how you continue the conversation, how these two things intersect with each other. We have the same with Carnival Cruises, for example, inside the ship. So there are all these type of activities that are occurring, and it's opening a lot of opportunities.
Cool.
If people are happy with the privacy element of being, I think there's a bit of controversy around, when is it appropriate to actually contact people. So I think that, but obviously as they subscribe and they can tell you what they like and all of that, you can cover this element of the experience indeed. Alexa in itself is a bit of a beast. I know I have many at home because I do a lot of work with it. Yeah. But for instance, my husband is definitely not friendly with Alexa in the bedroom, and I think a lot of people find that as well. So the privacy and the ethics, obviously, it's a slightly different kind of mechanics in the background, and I think the media have not played in our favor right there. Sometimes to kind of have it more pervasive.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I'm just watching the time here. I appreciate all of you being part of this. This was great, and could keep going to hear more of your insights. But thanks everyone for being part of this. I definitely appreciate this. And for everyone listening, we're going to post this video and a little write-up on it, hopefully within the week or so. But thanks everyone for participating.
Thanks everyone.
A pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.